Hello, this is Jorge Gamboa. A lot of my friends call me George. Welcome to Unstoppable Leaders and the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV, channel 250. Please remember to download it for iOS and Android devices. The application is free. And when you do that, show us some love, leave some comments, and rate it. And Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku sticks, and any TV manufactured after 2016. So today we have the pleasure of having Karin Perisic, a co-founder and VP of Trailways Transportation Group with us. Welcome, Karin.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, no, this is great. One of the first things I like to do to kick off a show with a new guest is tell us a little bit about your story. How did you got into the trucking industry? Because it's not something like you wake up and say, I'm gonna go.
No, not at all. I've had quite the journey in my career, I guess you could say. I think I stumbled into transportation and trucking by accident. It wasn't planned. I'm sure that happens to many people. I was working for the Government of Canada, actually, in the Employment Insurance division for quite a few years. And I took a part-time job at a Canadian trucking company called Manitoulin Transport. They're very large in the industry. And I don't know what happened after that. I just decided that I really, really like the industry. I got extremely interested in it, decided I wanted to go full-time instead of part-time, transitioned to a company called BSD Logistics. I started there as a junior account manager and then a senior account manager and eventually up to operations manager. So lots of experience there. And following that, I decided, you know what, this is something I don't just like doing, I really love doing it. So why don't I give it a crack? And that is how Trailways Transportation Group was formed back in 2020.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things to unpack in there.
Yeah.
So as you were transitioning, well, moving up, because you were learning all the different facets of the trucking industry, what were some of the biggest challenges that you thought to yourself? Yeah, I like that type of problem. I like that type of environment.
Yeah. So one thing that I realized is very quickly I learned no matter how much I thought I knew, you get to month 3 in a job, month 6, 1 year, you think I've seen it all. I know all of this now. I know the answer to everything. I finally know the industry. And the very next day, you'll learn 10 new things by accident, just because you come across a different type of problem or a different type of customer request. So I found it was very interesting. I've never had a boring day on the job. I've had challenging ones, ones that are harder than others, but never a boring day because there's always something new in the industry. And even to this day, I can say that is still the case. I'm still constantly learning new things. And the second thing that I really like about it is just the relationships you build. A lot of customer relationships, carrier relationships. You get to know a lot of different people from different places.
And for those that are not very familiar with the trucking industry, how is the environment? Is it mostly, well, this is before you started your own company, right? Is it mostly relationships within your big company, or is it a lot of alliances, partnerships, or is it mostly dealing with the truckers, drivers?
It's so because I have an asset-based freight brokerage, it's a little bit of everything for me. So I have relationships with truckers directly as well as their dispatch teams. I have relationships with customers on the shipping side, but also on the end of receiving the freight. One order could have you speak to the driver, their dispatch team, the shipper, the receiver, and everybody in between. So you get to know so many different people just doing one point A to point B move. And then, like I said, you do it with the same person maybe 2 or 3 times. Next thing you know, you're forming kind of like a coworker relationship with that person. You're forming a relationship where you guys start speaking more, and they're helping you out, and you're helping them out, and it just kind of grows from there. It's one thing I've learned about trucking is relationships are super, super important, not just with your customers, but also with your drivers and everything else in between, right?
So you made a good point. Relationships and soft skills.
Yeah.
As you were progressing in your career, did you run into a moment in time where you said, "Okay, I need to brush up. I need to learn this set of skills," or things like that? Did you get into that realization at some point?
Well, that's a good point actually that you make too with soft skills and stuff. I think one thing that really helped me that I would have never assumed was going to help me in this industry was the fact that I've done some form of customer relations or sales at some point with previous jobs. With the government of Canada, for example, it was kind of client relations, people calling in to inquire about different applications they were putting through. Prior to that, all of my work experience was similar fields, and I guess I developed that skill of building relationships with people. So I come into trucking and I think that's not going to be relevant. Maybe it's going to be different because it's more just, very industrial and get to the point and we have a job to do and that's it. But it became the most important skill set that I had in this industry for sure.
Yeah, and that just reiterates the importance of how everything that we experience actually helps put us in the position where we are right now,
Absolutely.
or
It's
whatever
so
is next.
true. Even though you can't see it today, you'll realize it in 5 years when you look back and say, wow, those steps that I took or those things that I did actually put me where I am today. And I did not even realize that that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And another question: while you were growing
Mhm.
your expertise, did you have any special mentors, coaches, uh, people that guide you through the ranks, or how was that relationship?
Definitely. I definitely had a few mentors kind of throughout my entire career from, 20 years old doing something totally different to now. I kind of think that each of them helped me in different phases of my life to get to the next point. And it just so happened that I felt I would also meet somebody at different stages that would help me get to that next point. My business partner right now, definitely, Andrew, he's the one that taught me almost 100% of what I've learned in the industry today. And I'm very grateful to have him because he's extremely educated and knowledgeable with a large, vast background too. And I think we yin and yang each other kind of well. He knows all the technical things and the back end things, not just of transportation, but business as a whole. And I do the soft skills and the communications for the company as well as the sales. And together we create a very good dynamic with each other. But I would say, yes, he's the one more recently in this industry that I've learned the most from for sure.
And one of the things that we hear often is the success stories where everything is just beautiful, colorful, and things went right?
Yeah.
But the big learnings come from challenges that we have had to overcome at some point.
Mhm.
Can you recall before starting your company in your
Mhm.
previous life, one of those big challenges that helped you level up?
Yes, I remember. I think one of the biggest challenges that we had was at the beginning of the pandemic. Like this is just before we went into opening Trailways. We experienced a few things that happened that were unforeseeable to the world. A lot of people experienced challenges at that point, but what we experienced was the truckers were having a fear of crossing the border and driving across the border because of the pandemic. And we still had customers that relied on our services, which we are kind of even at the previous company, I mean, we were branded as a one-stop shop. We'll find a solution no matter what. And we experienced an issue where we were experiencing extreme difficulty finding solutions, simply because everybody had a fear. Pandemic was going on, but things still needed to kind of move because people still needed groceries and all of those things. What saved us in that instance was going back to the original point of this conversation was relationships, just having those relationships with really good trucking companies and drivers and partner carriers, and being able to work with them to kind of work through it. Okay, we know where you may not have, out of 80 drivers in your fleet, maybe only 20 are willing to actually work right now because the rest are kind of fearful. What do we need to do to help you get those 20 moving so that you can dedicate those to us right now so we can service our customers? And because of those relationships, they helped us, but that was challenging. That was scary, thinking of not being able to service your customers despite whatever is going on in the world. As an operations manager at the time, I felt I had a lot of stress on my plate trying to navigate through that. But thankfully, because we had built so many long-standing relationships with different partner carriers, we were okay at the end of it. A little bit of begging and pleading here and there, but it worked out at the end.
Yeah. And as you were, what was your train of thought that made you go for your own company to make the leap?
That's a great question too. I guess it was the first thing was just the passion I had for the industry. It was just really thinking to myself, I went through all my 20s trying different roles and different jobs and all with kind of a customer service or customer relationship kind of background, but I didn't find something that really hit home to me as something I could foresee myself doing forever. So I always wanted to open a business. My father's an entrepreneur as well, but I couldn't find my passion, I guess. I couldn't figure out what it is that I really enjoy doing on a day-to-day basis. And once I did a few years full-time in transportation and in a freight brokerage specifically, that was it for me. I just knew I want to learn how to open this. I want to find the right partner to help me through that. And I want to do this forever. And once I knew I wanted to do it forever, I felt confident that I could open a business and hopefully succeed because of my passion and my drive and my tenacity in this industry. Versus if I didn't feel passionate about something, I wouldn't have that confidence to say I can open this and do well.
And how do you decide, or how was the process? Because you have a partner, right? You founded the company. So how was that dynamic to make that happen versus you on your own?
Well, that's a great question too. He had a lot of business experience and transportation experience previously, but for me, it wasn't the transportation experience I was worried about. I was worried about the business side of things. First time opening a business, all the red tape you have to kind of do behind the scenes. And thankfully, that was where his area of expertise kicked in. And he was able to kind of take care of all of those things so that I could just focus on the customer relations, sales, and pushing out of the company. So I think if I had to do it without a partner, it would have been harder for me just because I don't have business experience. I probably would have done it because we all have to start somewhere. But I was lucky enough that I had somebody with an extreme amount of knowledge already to take some of that hardship off my plate on the back end of things.
Yeah, because I guess it's pretty amazing when you are able to complement the skills, so you have a broader perspective.
Yes, exactly. It was very complementing skills. It was, just me lacking knowledge in certain areas and him kind of lacking the ability in certain areas to focus or to maintain, the amount of time required to do certain things, and we able to come together and say, we can do this together. It's important that we delegate and understand which each partner is responsible for and what each person's responsible for, so that there's, a clear path. And then for everybody to just make sure they are doing what they promised they would be doing. And that's it.
Yeah, and I guess it's also super important, the background that you had working with that person, with your partner before, right? Because it's a big commitment to start a company with somebody else.
Oh, for sure. You kind of have to, I would definitely say, and my father taught me this too, again, being an entrepreneur in a different industry, just to make sure that whoever you're working with, partners, colleagues, people who you're bringing onto your team, onboarding, even partnerships with vendors and suppliers and everything like that, it's very important that you have an understanding of what their values are and what their ethics are, and making sure that they align with your values and ethics and your goals. And if there's major differences between those core values, you're likely going to experience more issue working with the person in the long run, or with the supplier or vendor, whoever it may be.
And to that one, not everything is smooth sailing from the moment you guys decided, right? In the early days, I'm sure there were a lot of challenges that you had to overcome. Right?
Yes.
Do you remember any particular thing that made you say, Was this a question if that was a good idea?
Oh, definitely. In the early days, there was a lot of questions about everything, just because you're kind of new in the game, and you have so many worries. I'd say one of the main ones was we were unfortunately still going through the pandemic when we opened at the end of 2020, and we were still seeing. I think it was right after October 2020 we opened. I think it was January of 2021 that the truck convoy happened, and that truck convoy had me thinking, wow, did I really pick the right time to be doing this? Because this is really, really difficult. We had barricades at the borders. We had trucking companies and truckers that were essentially picketing there. We had a number of other issues as well. It was just, not being able to find solutions because it seemed like half the industry was involved in actually just kind of protesting as opposed to working. So that was one of the first things that happened maybe 3 months into business. And I went, oh my God, how are we going to bypass this now? And how long will it last? Nobody knew anything, just like COVID, right? Nobody knew how long is this going to go on for? The second challenge I faced early on was just that same thing because of COVID. It was hard to find staffing solutions because there was this work from home versus work in office situation that was going on, and we were trying to navigate what would be better for us and what would employees feel comfortable with, and going along with the government mandates too, right? So there were a lot of, for us, that I guess that's specific to my story because of COVID. But if I were to have to go stray away from COVID and those exceptional issues that happened, it was sales. Sales was scary at first, building a new book of business and trying to prove yourself as a new player in the game when there are so many companies that exist already that offer similar services that probably already have relationships with people. How do I stand out and kind of prove that we can also do just as well as them, even though we've just opened or we're a lot smaller? And I think that is something that a lot of business owners can probably relate to, just kind of sales and the competition in your market, and how do you stand out? What do you do? Do you invest in marketing? Do you invest in salespeople? Do you do it yourself? And my advice, what I did was I realized that as a business owner, I can hire salespeople, I can hire marketing staff. Nobody's going to sell for your company harder than you will for yourself. If you cannot do it, you cannot expect to hire somebody who will do it for you. So I decided to do it myself. And I had a lot of days where I felt the day didn't go great at the end of the day, a lot of no's, a lot of shut doors. And then slowly and surely, 99 shut doors, 1 open door, then 2 open doors, then 3 open doors, So I think I spent a few weeks kind of almost in depression. And then I kind of said, no, I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to prove to myself I'm capable. And once I started believing in myself, things got better.
Yeah. And talking about sales, because I think that's a big pain for, like you said, for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any of those reactions or challenges? Because a lot of people, when they start the business, they need to do things like cold calling or door knocking or really go into uncomfortable situations, but that's the only way
Yes.
to move forward.
Yes.
Any tips, any things that you experience in that front? What
Yes.
was the driver to say, okay, next one is going to happen?
So that's exactly it. It was cold calling for me at the time because, again, COVID was not allowing for door-to-door. People were not so open to that concept. So it was going back to the tried and true cold calling and email blast campaigns and trying to post on social media and gather some attention. So I think a few things really, really helped motivate me when I started. One was a lot of my partner carriers called up my cell phone when they realized I was no longer working at my previous company, the trucking companies I worked with, the drivers, and they said, hey, what happened? Where'd you go? And I gave them the news, and they said, listen, whatever you got working on, whatever new customers you get, whatever the situation is, we're here to help you. So you call us as soon as you're ready. And that gave me some confidence to say, okay, my previous relationships are now shining into my current business. That's great to hear. But yes, cold calling was difficult. Waking up every morning, 7:30, 8 o'clock, and just ring, ring, ring. No, 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 no. Right. But I just kept saying the next one's going to be a yes. The next one's going to be a yes. And it took a while, but finally it started happening. And then the good thing is I had the confidence of knowing I have solutions because I have all these great relationships that are backing me. All these people who worked with me for years are calling me and saying, hey, we're ready to work with you again. You just tell us what you've got. So between the two, I had that confidence to just kind of know that when I'm making those calls, I'm not just making a cold call and selling something that I don't have. I was selling with confidence, knowing I was not lying. I really can do what I'm saying I can do, and I really can be competitive, and I really can supply you with great service, quality service. And then from there, once I kind of got the yes one or two times, then I go into where my area of expertise is, which is building that relationship. Now we're going to be friends because now we've worked together, and I'm going to get to know every aspect of your business, and I'm going to try to grow that within our relationship.
Yeah. And it's funny, but so much true. No matter what business we are, it all begins and ends with people.
Yes. Relationships matter so much. And it's, again, like I said, not just your customers, it's your vendors, suppliers, loyalty goes a long way. And but you have to earn loyalty, right? You have to prove that there's a reason to be loyal. But if you can, and when you can, though, you can do wonderful things. You can do wonderful things and you can really grow, but relationships matter so much. It's for sure.
And so where are you right now when it comes to sales and attracting new clients? Are you still doing everything, or have you started to build a team, outsourcing?
So luckily, we've had quite a bit of success in the last couple of years. So we've started building a sales team, which is wonderful. I've also started building an operations team. So I have people who work on the day-to-day operations for me, people who work on the day-to-day sales, and I'm kind of in more of a position of overseeing and kind of guidance and training and sitting one-on-one with my staff and helping them understand different aspects of the business so that they can grow as well. And then, of course, I assist with onboarding of new customers as sales division brings it into us. So I'm still doing it, of course. Of course, I still have to as well. I cannot lose the drive or the passion or the desire to do it. So I still pick up the phone with my sales team on a daily basis and make those calls. And I do a lot of visits to the existing, customers that have been loyal to us and working with us. But I'm very blessed to say that, yes, we've been able to get into a place of growth and kind of expansion. And I can't wait to see what this year has in store for us, for sure.
And we talked a lot about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're building your own teams, growing your company. Are there any other skills that you have to learn in order to build teams? Because it's different when you are just interacting with somebody a few minutes here and there to help them build the business or helping a transaction happen. And another one is a team that is looking after you.
Yes. So relationships are wonderful, but there's different ways to, I guess, go about dealing with those depending on the dynamic. So in this instance, I'd say management skills are important as well. And you want to make sure that you're not only managing your teams. By managing, I don't mean, just bossing them around, but just having the management skills to understand where people's strengths are and putting them in the correct, categories, which accounts they'll manage or what they're going to do, sales or logistics or whatever. But building relationships with them in the sense that, so my policy is, for example, open door. I rarely say no to my staff on any of the requests within reason, as long as they are open and honest with me, and I try to do the same back for them. That's the method I've chosen. I know everybody is different. I'm not saying it's going to work for everybody. There's no one size fits all. But for me, I maintain a good relationship with my staff, just by saying, hey, you know what, don't be afraid to come to me with anything. There's no wrong question, wrong answer. It's just a matter of us working together. You be transparent, and I'll do what I can to help you on my end. And just that open door. I'm never too busy. Never too busy to come in and tell me you need to speak or to ask me something. Being very present. And like I said, I'll sit with the sales team on a daily basis and make the calls with them. I'll sit with my operations team on a daily basis and book the loads. I'm not above or beneath anything. I'm part of the team just like everybody else is, and I'm going to work just as hard as they do to make sure that nobody is left behind and nobody's sitting struggling on their own.
Yeah, and I think that's a fundamental piece as you are growing from the very beginning your company, right? Because you are setting the tone for the culture of what
Yes.
the company is going to be in the long term.
Exactly. Right now, I have great staff who I foresee if they stay with me in the long term, they're probably going to be in management. So I want them to kind of look at my management style and take, the good parts out of it. I'm sure not everything I do is great, but take the good pieces out of me. And one day, if they're managing people beneath them, they're kind of following the same suit so that we have a certain type of culture here. Like you said, we're kind of open door policy culture. Everybody's putting their best foot forward. If one operations staff is struggling with completing a task, the other operations staff knows they can come help. No separation. We're all just one big team, and nobody gets left struggling. We're all going to help each other, no matter what role we're in. We're not going to leave one person to struggle if the rest of us are working away, right? So that's the culture and the dynamic I want, is just everybody understanding that we're all here for each other. There's no dumb questions here. Everything is just good to go. We get the work done together, and that's it. Yeah.
No, that's it's a beautiful time when you are growing and building that culture. If you're intentional, it can pay off in the long term.
That's how I feel. I feel like if we just keep our eye on the ball and everybody kind of just stays transparent and focused, we're going to achieve great things. And like I said, I've been very lucky that we've built a great team so far, and I'm looking forward to more growth. And I'm just excited to see what it brings.
So your company pretty much was born and grew through trial and fire, right? I call it. So right now, what are the biggest challenges that you can see are coming?
That's a good question. In the transportation industry, things are changing quite rapidly and quite constantly. I'd say we are keeping an eye on what the current economy is going through right now. There's been a lot of challenges that just Canadians are facing as a whole. North Americans, just the everyday people, no matter what industry you're in, we're all seeing inflation. We're all seeing changes in the economy. So that's something that can put a strain on any business, right? Just watching your margins and watching how you're kind of forecasting your quarters to go and everything like that. I would say right now, because we're in a place of growth, the number one thing that we're trying to focus on, which is also probably the biggest challenge, and I think we said this earlier, it's always a challenge in business, is just the sales aspect. Just trying to continue feeding our pipeline with new clients and new pieces of business to kind of continue the growth. I believe this is just my personal belief in business, is that the moment you stop selling is the moment your company kind of becomes stagnant and potentially starts dying. So you always want to be selling your business, promoting your business, out there screaming to the top of your lungs, like, here's my business, this is what we do, right? We don't ever want to stop doing that, because we don't want to experience stagnancy. We want to continue seeing the growth. And the best way to do that is continue having that passion and fire driving you out there, and getting your name out there, and letting people know that you exist and what you do and why you're great and all those things. So it is a challenge too, though, of course, because in our market, there is a lot of competition. So sales is not easy in any capacity for anybody, but for us as well. Yeah.
Talking about that, I have a peculiar question. So a lot of clients probably you get from either referrals or relationships that you have built.
That's correct.
If we put those aside, I've heard recently that if you have very bad marketing, you need very strong salespeople. Or if you have very good marketing, you can get by with not so much strong salespeople. If they are strong, that's great. But the marketing will do a lot of the lift off. So it's easier to close them. What are your thoughts about that?
I think I agree with that statement. I've never really thought about that, but I think, as you said it, I really do agree with it. And I'll give you, back in day one example. I was doing sales. I kind of created a book of business so that I had to switch my focus from sales to operational tasks mainly, because now I have these clients and I was still kind of on my own this is again first year kind of thing, right? And so I switched my focus to operations. So I was doing less in sales, more now just maintaining my book of business and growing within that book of business as opposed to calling every single day. So I realized I'm not really doing the traditional sales anymore. And I started to get concerned. But what I did do was because we're business to business as opposed to B2C, I started just let me promote on LinkedIn as much as possible, my business, my presence, my profile. And that's not high level marketing, because of course, high level marketing is, you pay money and you get people to do it properly. But I was doing that form of marketing for myself on my own through the social media platforms that I had. And that actually gathered me quite a few new clients that I wasn't expecting through messages on LinkedIn. Hey, I saw you posted something, you have a trucking company. You know what? I need a quote. And it was like, wow, oh, okay, here's my email. And it was growing that way. Now you're saying it on a larger spectrum, marketing versus sales. I think you're absolutely right. I think if you put your resources into marketing, you probably don't have to worry so much about cold calling and sales, because organically you're going to be out there, you're going to be on the Google searches, you're going to be on social media platforms. So that should be bringing you more inbound generation. But if you're not focusing on that, then yes, you need to have a really good sales team. So right now we're lucky we have a really good sales team, but actually it's funny you bring it up, because that's our next move too, is we want to get into marketing our company, of course, too. And it's all part of growing and getting out there. Whatever you can do to get out there, you absolutely should be, as you're able to. So I agree with that point. Definitely.
Yeah. As you mentioned also, that comment about LinkedIn, it's so important, because when you have visibility, it just puts you on top of minds of when people need something like that. You're the first one to
that's it, right? And it kind of, like you said, does half the work for you, because this person's going to stumble upon you before you even get to stumble upon them. And hopefully they're, in a position where they have something that you can do for them. So that just begins the relationship, right? So yeah, I think they're equally as important. Social media has been a huge player for me from day one with gaining traction on the company and letting people know that we exist.
And talking about social media as a segue, now there's a lot of noise over the last year about AI and how a lot of companies use it for social media content and so on.
Yes.
What are your thoughts, or how do you see AI impacting your industry?
That is a really good question. I have heard of AI for marketing and social media, that companies are utilizing them. I even tested it out myself. What would happen if I used AI to create an article on transportation? What does it do? And it was phenomenal. It was incredible how it created this article all about trucking, just based on a few keywords I popped into the system. I guess for me personally, how I'm currently conducting business, I think I prefer a more personal approach to sales and marketing, a little bit more of a personal touch, a little bit more specific to what we do, as opposed to something generated kind of electronically. However, what I will say is that's just me, right? There's a lot of companies where I've seen them use the AI technology, and I've seen it have great results. It just depends, I guess, what you're marketing, maybe how large of a company you already are too. For example, a company like Walmart might benefit from AI because everybody already knows Walmart. You don't need to scream, hey, I'm Walmart, right? Everybody knows that's Walmart. So maybe if they're trying to gain traction out of sharing certain information, AI is going to be great for them. For me, I'm still in very much a place of relationships and, like you said, referrals and word of mouth, and kind of people who know me are referring me. And then we're doing cold call sales, real agent to a real consumer. And so we're kind of in that era, but I don't think it's a bad idea at all. I think AI is, depending on the industry, it can do wonderful things for you too. And again, it's a form of marketing, and I'm not going to say anything negative about any form of marketing for your company, right?
And what about the other side, outside of marketing and sales? For example, Tesla with these self-driving trucks that they announced a couple of years ago.
That one's a tough one for me, because I see benefits and I see negatives to it. And I guess even with AI, we can argue that too. It's just, I would hate to see the hardworking truck drivers not have their jobs because something like technology has taken over it. And again, maybe this is my personal feeling on it, but I feel like having personable relationships with customers include things like your driver going in and saying, hey, how are you, this, that, whatever. And yes, the driver's there, but it's kind of taking away an aspect of their role. As for self-driving trucks, though, as a whole, I don't know what else to say, because I can't even envision in my head, how that's going to really pan out when they're prepared to roll it out. I've read so many different opinions on it, so many different articles, different concerns and good things about it and bad things. So hard for me to envision a world in which we have self-driving trucks or vehicles, period, though. So I'm kind of watching out for that and listening to the news on that. But I mean, again, I guess I'm old school. I like the personal relationships and keeping the real people working, right?
Yeah, it's too early to tell what's going to happen. But we go back. It all begins and ends with people.
That's how I feel. I guess that's how my whole conversation has been going. Relationships. So that's how I feel personally. Yeah. But it'll be interesting to see for sure. I'm again not hating on it, because it could be wonderful, but it's just so early to tell what's really going to come out of that one.
Yeah. So can you tell us a little bit about now your company? What does it do? Who is the clients in your company? Is it mostly Canadian, US?
So we have a little bit of everything in North America. We have some clients, I would say majority in Canada, just because I'm in Canada too. So I've been able to build those relationships, but we've expanded into having American customers, as well as even in Mexico. So we've serviced all across North America. We kind of do a little bit of everything. We do ship out to the UK and to Asia as well, but usually that's for customers that are in North America placing the order with me to go out there. We offer transportation services just globally. We're kind of the same thing I said before, like a one-stop shop, which brings a value add, in my opinion, to all shippers, because even if you have great relationships with trucking companies directly, don't lose those. You use those trucking companies directly. But in any instance where you have an anomaly shipment, a shipment you don't normally deal with, and that trucking company maybe doesn't service that area, we can fill those voids for you and take care of it with no problem, because we have a network of over 1,000 partner carriers that we're working with on a daily basis. So we fill the gaps in between when your usual form of service is not going to work out for you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, kind of handling the exceptions to the everyday.
Yes, and then that alleviates a lot of pressure off of the shippers and the receivers, who are already having so much to do. They have to produce the order, they have to prepare it, they have to get all the paperwork ready, they have to arrange the shipment. So one less thing for them to worry about is having to call 100 or 200 trucking companies to find a solution for something. They can just call me and I'll take care of it, and they don't have to worry about it again.
Now that you mentioned this aspect of complicated, dealing with so many things, I want to go back a little bit about your mindset. In the early days, when you started your company, how did you balance doing operations, getting new clients, and all the other things that you're doing? Because you're being pulled all different directions, and yet you need to make progress in everything. How do you approach that?
It was hard. It was hard trying to delegate my time, because I would say to myself, I remember when I started trying to figure it out, I would say to myself, okay, I'll do sales from, this hour to this hour in the morning. Then I'll switch over to operations. And maybe if there's time, I'll go back. But it didn't work out that way, because the way operations and trucking works is you cannot predict what's going to be needed at what time, if there's going to be any issues that arise, so on and so forth. So what I started doing was just taking each day for what it was, waking up early in the morning, getting prepared before people started calling in for things, kind of being up before everyone else, getting to my desk quite early in the morning, like 6:30, 7 in the morning, sometimes earlier, and then just looking at my day. And I realized very quickly that if I'm doing cold calling or emails or a post on LinkedIn or whatever it is, I'm just going to have to work that in when I see I can work it in, as opposed to setting specific hours that I'm going to do it every day, which I thought initially would be nice, but it didn't work out for me. So it would be, 7, 8 o'clock. Okay. At 8 o'clock, my customers start kind of arriving and they're telling me what they need. So I deal with that. Then, 8:45. Looks like everything's taken care of for 15 minutes. Let me quickly call this shipper that I was looking at online and ask them if I, do a sales call. And then I do that. Then I go back to my emails. Okay, let me just, then now 9:15. Okay, let me do it again to somebody else. So I was really doing a toggle between the 2 and 3 things, between marketing on LinkedIn, making calls, and then operations. So it was a little bit of a stretch. And that's when I very quickly realized, and thankfully we grew enough to do so, that we need to have some staff because that'll make things a lot easier. But I did experience a challenge initially with staffing too, because I had a hard time letting go of what I was doing as well. I had a hard time giving my baby to anybody else. I was overstepping a lot initially. Oh, okay. I hired an operations specialist, but then an email would come in and I go, no, I'll do it because I know that person. And I had to let go, learn to trust my staff, learn to trust that they were doing what was in my best interest so I could focus on the other things I needed to. And I learned, it took time, but I learned that was important. And then things became easier to manage from that point. But in the early days, it was very much just, I'm going to go with the flow and not let any moment go to waste. As soon as I have a free moment, I'll utilize it to market on social media or to make a call, and then I'll go back to what I need to do.
Yeah, because every person that I talk to, every entrepreneur, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah,
to become that stage.
Not just a roller coaster of your day, but emotionally too, right? Because you're thinking so many things while you're trying to do so many things too, like, oh, am I making the right decision here? Should I, stretch myself on this side? Should I do this instead? In the very beginning of business ownership, there's a lot of self-doubt sometimes because there can be a lot of worry. But all I can say is if you stay committed and focused and you work on your relationships, whether it be with your customers or your suppliers, you're going to be just okay. Everything's going to be okay. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm glad to hear that. And when you look 5 years down the road, where do you see your company going, and what do you see yourself doing?
That's a great question. So this year is a very exciting year for us. Well, the end of last year, but I'll call it this year. We've started purchasing our own equipment. So we're going to have our own trucks on the road as well very shortly, next couple of months. We do have a couple already. So we're trying to expand into having a fleet of our own trucks as well as just working with partner trucking companies, which is exciting because now we can offer additional services and bring our own equipment into our customers to allow them to make more use of that. So I continue in the next 3 to 5 years. I hope to see that side continue to grow. I hope to see with the sales division that we're building right now that has already started working for us, and the marketing that we're going to do, I hope to see many more new clients and new faces. And I hope that I can be in a position where I'm overseeing many departments in my company that are all happily moving in smooth direction. I don't know if I want to be a mammoth in the industry. I do like the kind of boutique version that we've created, very specialized and unique, so that I can continue to have my hands with my customers and be involved. But growth in general, I think all businesses want to see some growth. So definitely some growth within the industry and kind of really planting ourselves in there well, so that one day when my children get big, maybe they'll take over for me. That's always the goal.
Yeah, a family business.
Nice. Yeah.
And when you think about those things, what are some of the I don't want to say again challenges, obstacles, but what are the big milestones internally that you think that you will have to challenge yourself to take it to the next level? Just like you mentioned earlier, that at the beginning when you started delegating, it was hard for you to let go.
It was.
Have you thought about those things?
I think I've come a long way from the way I was to the way I am now, but I'm sure that those feelings will come up with more growth. The more I let myself go further and further, the more I'm probably going to have to challenge myself to allow that to happen. Because as much as I've resolved a lot of it, I know it's still there because I'm so, it's like having a child almost, right? I so don't want to let go of their hand. I so just want to be there clinging to it to make sure I can see that everything's going the way I'm envisioning it. So I think that's going to be one of my personal challenges, is just really, like, I know my team is great, letting them do things the way that they need to do it to get it done. And as we grow, kind of, I'll be more stepped out a little bit and letting, hiring people who will become managers in my company or supervisors and letting them do that for me. That's definitely one challenge that I foresee for myself. As for the business, just with growth, anytime a business grows, you also have to keep in mind that it means you've got to ensure that you're maintaining those relationships, because now it's even more imperative that you're not losing clients just because you're gaining other ones, right? The one thing that's really important in our industries is I don't want 100 clients tomorrow if it means I'm going to risk the relationships I have with the clients that currently exist. I want to make sure that everything is happening organically and nobody feels the pinch of that. My clients don't suddenly feel like I'm not paying the same amount of attention to them today as I did yesterday because we're growing too quickly, right? I want to make sure that there's no change in our customer service. There's no change in the quality of our work. We're not going to sacrifice quality for quantity ever. Everybody's going to be treated just as they were from day one. There's going to be no feelings of, oh, now they think they're big and they're not. We're gonna maintain that level of service. So those are the two challenges that I really see that we have to keep an eye on as we move forward. If we do experience the growth that I'm hoping for, then we have to make sure nobody feels that in any negative capacity.
Yeah, and I think that's very significant, especially in your industry, as you mentioned it, because the reason they are your clients is because they have these exceptional situations that they need help with, right?
Exactly.
So if you lose that connection, then
Yes, if we start going for something we think is easier and not so specialized, and we start kind of neglecting anything, and this doesn't just go with customers, even neglecting staff members, neglecting our carriers who are working with us, it's very important that, to me anyways, that all relationships are maintained just as importantly as they were from day one through to today, because everybody's important, and every request, whether it be from my driver through to my customer through to my employee, they all matter. So I'm going to make sure that as much as I'm going to not cling that child's hand as hard as I was, I'm always going to be available for them, like watching a child grow. Exactly. Like as they get older, you don't need to hold their hand, but you need to answer their call and take the time, right? So same thing.
Yeah, so paraphrasing, what I'm hearing is you want to keep the relationships being special relationships, and your enemy, if I'm to word it, is to become a commodity.
Yes, exactly. We don't want to become exactly. We want to maintain that's the reason that we opened, and the reason we were successful in the first year is because we treated everybody very uniquely, and especially we tailored all of our business solutions depending on what the carrier needed, the customer needed, so on and so forth. And I really want to see us maintain that level of service as we go on, and not to become, for a better word, yeah, like a commodity, like you said. Exactly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And for those that are listening or watching us right now, what advice would you give somebody who is on the fence? Should I start my business or should I continue with whatever they're doing safe?
Good question. I would say for me, it was almost, I kind of knew when I got into transportation that this was going to be my life or industry, whether I stayed as employees in different companies, or if I opened a business. And once I knew that, that is where I determined that if I wanted to open a business, if I wanted to be an entrepreneur, this is the industry. It helped, of course, to have experience in the industry. I think that that's key too. You want to open a business if it was something that you've done some work with before, had some education in, and just make sure that you're really passionate about it. Because on the challenging days, if you're not passionate about what you do, it's far too easy to say, I give up. But if you're passionate about it, you may have moments where you say, I want to give up, but you sleep on it and you wake up and you're like, no, I don't. I want to keep going.
And another question. I think I heard you say that your father was an entrepreneur.
Sorry, my what?
Well, one of your parents
Oh,
was
my
an
father was an entrepreneur.
entrepreneur.
Yes, he still is. He's 76 and still owns his graphic design company. Yep.
If he had he not been an entrepreneur, would that have any impact or any change on you starting your own company?
That's a very good question. My mom worked for the Government of Canada. My dad was an entrepreneur. My mom, when I got the Government of Canada job, she wanted me to stay there for life. She said, what a great pension, what a great job. Don't lose it, keep it. My dad, as an entrepreneur, said, do what's going to make you happy. And I don't think you're happy. And I'm not saying that he made me an entrepreneur, but I think he definitely gave me the skill set I needed to, because I watched how he had to work and what he had to do. And it was so inspiring to me. And maybe that's how I knew I had it in me too, because he did something that really I looked up to so much, right? I thought what he was so cool, and everything he did was so amazing. And I think he inspired me a lot. And I'm grateful that I had that as my role model growing up, for sure.
Awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
As we are wrapping up, any last thoughts, or where can people connect with you if they want to?
Great question. So on my LinkedIn, Karin Perisic, we have a LinkedIn page and a Facebook page as well for Trailways Transportation Group. And our website, www.trailwaystg.com. You can shoot us a message there or find out more about what we do as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Karin. It has been an amazing time having you here. We learned a lot of insights. And for everybody that is watching us, remember, as an unstoppable leader, achieving your goals is inevitable. And remember, this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check SpanglishWorld.ca for all news and programming. Spanglish World, watch it, hear it, read it, download it. And Karin, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Take care.